evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. This is Learning Space, episode 102, and tonight we're going to talk all about the moon. September is a very loony month, and I mean that in the lunar sense of the word. We have International Observe the Moon Night on September 19th. We have a lunar eclipse visible for both of the Americas and the western parts of Europe and Africa on the night between September 27th and 28th. And as always, if you stick your head out, you can watch the moon pass from the barest sliver, such as you may have seen last night, to, well, we'll have full moon in just a couple of weeks. Now, with me, as always, or at least almost always, is my co-host, Georgia Bracey, who's coming to us from her beautiful library.
Or echo chamber, as it may sound.
And we will be getting a new mic to fix that. Also this week, I have a special guest joining us who you may know as my co-host of the CLSE Hangout, and that is Andy Shaner, who's coming to us from the Lunar and Planetary Institute down in Houston, Texas. And we have Andy here to talk to us about, well, this Saturday's International Observe the Moon Night. He and I are both on the committee that is making this thing happen. And we're on different sides of it, where I play on the internet and he tends to actually play in the real world. So he's going to talk to you, I hope, about some of the things that are going on behind the scenes to make International Observe the Moon Night happen. Can you give us an overview of this project, Andy?
Sure. And am I coming across okay?
Yeah, you're just fine.
Okay, great. So, I don't know, this is the 6th year we've done. We call it InOMN for short. Sorry if I use that acronym. 6th year we've done it. First one was in 2010. The idea being to celebrate the moon and our really just this rapid changing of our understanding of the moon since over the past 5 or 6 years with all the missions that we've set up there. So it's a chance to learn more about the moon and what those missions are teaching us, and also cultural connections. I mean, everybody knows about the moon. It's there. You can pick it out in the sky, even in the brightest cities. Sorry. Yes. So I know. If you want to attend an event or just learn more about it, you can go to our website, which is just simply observethemoonnight.org, all one word. From that website, you can find a map that'll show you where events are around the world. As of this morning, this afternoon, we had over 400. Oh, thank you, Pamela. We had over 450 events that are registered that we know about so far. So we tweeted out a challenge to the world to see if we can top 500 this year. So, oh, look at that. There's another event in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Those are always exciting.
Where else
to go to that one?
International event. I never know where to put our button for CosmoQuest. So here's the United States, scrolling through. This is actually real here out on the islands. Events pretty much everywhere in the world. The one place that we don't have one so far is Antarctica.
Right, and that's
to our sadness.
Been common every year, and I know there's people down there. I know there's people down there right now, but I think they're having a bit of a storm issue. So hopefully maybe it'll clear out for them by this weekend. But yeah, so here you can see events all over the world. You can click on the little balloon. That'll give you some more information on that particular event based on whatever the event organizer chose to, information to give you. Sometimes there'll be a link to a website that they have that says more about their event. If you go look under the other menu options, activities, or ideas for hands-on activities you could do during your event, or you might see at an event somewhere, even things you could do at home. Because one of the great things about InOMN and viewing the moon is you don't have to have a telescope or binoculars. So we encourage people, no matter where they are in the world, to participate on Saturday evening, whether it's at home, at a planetarium, at a science center, wherever they are. And even if you do something from home, just go out and look up. Go to register your event and tell us that you were there. Just put an event. And this is Yeah, that's a cool feature we have on our website is so on the night or in the night of InOMN and even afterwards, as people submit their pictures through the Flickr account we set, a group account we set up for InOMN, which you can access from that page there. As people submit pictures to that, our website will pull them in, and it'll display the 25 most recent pictures that have been uploaded. So there you see we have pictures going back to 2010 from all over the world, which is really fun and really cool to see. Under event materials, you can find moon maps, which is a map of what the moon will look like on this Saturday evening and points out some features that you can see with or without the aid of telescopes or binoculars. We have a version for the northern hemisphere that you see here, and a version for the southern hemisphere, which, as you can probably guess, is the exact same thing, just upside down. There you see. So that's how it was. So yes, the moon really would appear upside down if you were south of the equator. It would appear upside down to you if you're from north of the equator. So that's a cool thing to check out. And other things on that page you can go look at to see more about what InOMN is all about and materials that can help you with an event. You can go to cool stuff to buy, and there's a link to a Cafe Press site where you can buy some InOMN gear. Just some examples of some stuff there. It's wholesale. It's we don't mark it up or anything. We don't make any kind of money off of that. So you're paying for the item that just has our logo on it. You go to About Us. You can learn who the various partners are with InOMN. You'll see there, in a sense, it's sponsored. The event is sponsored by, really, you could say NASA in general that puts money out for it. But that goes specifically through the Lunar Planetary Institute, who I work with in Houston, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Education Group, and the NASA Survey Institute. And then, like Pamela, who is, of course, involved with us, and lots of other partners that help us out with promoting this across the world and letting people know and having their own events. So that's kind of the website in a nutshell. Don't want to belabor that a little too much. Just go check it out yourself. Lots of things you can see. So yeah, that's InOMN.
And we're going to be including links to this website and lots of other activities in show notes, which will appear both on YouTube, on Patreon first, and then on the CosmoQuest Educator Zone blog a few hours to a day later, depending on which side of midnight things end up getting posted. So International Observe the Moon Night is one of these things that we spend a lot of time planning how to get the web presence, the social media, and everything else going. But I have to ask, how are you personally celebrating it, Andy?
Me personally? Well, okay, I'll tell you about what we're doing at LPI. So we'll have our own event at the Lunar Planetary Institute in Houston. We'll have a series of activities which are really kind of geared towards middle school, maybe a little younger kids. But then the Johnson Space Center Astronomy Society, an amateur astronomy group, they will be bringing telescopes out. And they'll have them out on our front lawn so people can view the moon and other objects, assuming it's clear. We've had zero luck with that this year at our various outreach events. They've all been clouded out. So hopefully they'll clear. So maybe something for older adults. We'll have the Aries group, which is responsible for part of what they do is they house the lunar samples and meteorites brought back from Antarctica. Their Johnson Space Center. They'll come out with some lunar samples from Apollo samples and meteorites for people can view. And so these activities that kids are going to do, the whole idea is they finish each station, and it's kind of this idea of this is their preliminary training to be future lunar explorers. So they're going to learn a little bit about lunar science, robotics. Robotic humans working with robotics will be very big in the future with lunar exploration. And they're also going to learn a little bit about health in space, kind of what kind of things are going to happen to them in space, to their body, and things to think about. They're going to weigh different. Things are going to feel lighter, and how's that going to affect their need to exercise and all, things like that. So They'll finish all that hopefully, and they'll give them a little certificate on the way out, and hopefully they'll walk away with an understanding of there's a lot of things you have to do to prepare to go to the moon someday.
That all sounds quite awesome. And here in Edwardsville, and I'm realizing as I look at this, I'm the only one that has no name in our Hangout, so I will add a name. So we're actually going to have a pretty awesome event that Georgia is mostly the one responsible for making sure that CosmoQuest got to be a part. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Georgia?
Sure. We've gone to a local custard place in Edwardsville for the past few years because that's just sounded like such a great idea to have wonderful custard available while you're looking at the sky, while you're looking through telescopes. And it's Annie's Frozen Custard here in Edwardsville. And the neat thing about that place, though, is it's right downtown. People are out, of course, depending on the weather, but people are out just walking by. We have telescopes set up with the local astronomy group, which is the Riverbend Astronomy Club, and they are kind enough to bring all kinds of telescopes out. They do such a great job with outreach in the area here, and they also provide, they bring activities out for the kids, so it's just a really nice, fun time. People walk by, you know, we try to do a lot of PR, of course, but the really fun thing is that people are just walking by and they are drawn in by usually the telescopes, and they want to, you know, see what the heck we're doing over here. And we can just bring people in that way and show them the sky, show them the moon, talk to the kids about it, and we spend the whole evening there just eating custard and looking at the moon and whatever else is up there to look at. So I think this is our 4th year doing it. I might be wrong, might be just 3rd. But anyway, doing it for a few years, and the folks at Annie's love to have us there, and it's always a great night.
Yeah, we're really lucky, and so far we have not had any particularly sticky lenses after having all of the custard introduced, all of the telescopes.
No accidental spills or anything, no.
Exactly. So thank you, Andy. I know you have to take off. We really appreciate you dropping by, and good luck with your event. It sounds like you have some really awesome things planned down there at the Lunar and Planetary Institute.
Well, thank you, and good luck with yours too.
And where can people find out more about how to follow all of the awesome things you're doing?
So you can go to observethemoonnight.org, of course, and check out the website. We're also on Twitter. Our handle is @observethemoon, and we're encouraging people to use the hashtag #MoonNight, all one word, so you can search for that and find things. We also have a Facebook page, so you can look for us on there as well, and of course Flickr. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andy, and have a great evening.
You too.
Thanks, Andy.
Good night.
Thanks for being here. Good night.
And now to do a quick station identification. For those of you who tuned in late, this is Learning Space, a production of the CosmoQuest team at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. I am Dr. Pamela Gay, and with me is my co-host, Georgia Bracey. And we are talking to you tonight mostly about the moon. Now, I do want to take a pause to recognize there has been, for those of you who are watching live, there's been a massive earthquake off the coast of Chile. So far, there's reports of house damage, but I'm not seeing reports of injuries or death yet. But there is a tsunami warning out for Hawaii and South America. And what I'm seeing from the Northwest Tsunami Alert Center is there's consideration being made for California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, and Alaska. So if you are in the Americas on the West Coast, you might want to stick on your news. Come back, watch us later. We'll still be around on YouTube, and we just want to make sure that all of you in low-lying coastal areas stay safe. The Pacific Rim is a beautiful place, but it's on the move, and tonight's one of those nights it decided to go on the move. So we hope everyone is safe, and that the reports we're seeing now of minor house damage are the only reports of harm to humans that come in this evening. Now, on a much more cheerful note, we have more exciting lunar happenings this month. So moving beyond the September 19th International Observe the Moon Night, there is going to be a lunar eclipse. Now, Georgia, I have miraculous abilities to get clouded out when it comes to eclipses. Have you had any amazing opportunity to see eclipses?
I had one awesome time to see an annular solar eclipse.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was a while ago, admittedly, but it was just so amazing because it happened to be, close enough for me to get to. And the weather was perfect and clear. And so that's the one and only solar eclipse. And that was back in the mid to late 80s. So somebody could figure out probably, I'm sure, which eclipse it actually was. I don't remember. But that was amazing, and everybody just had a wonderful time with that. And I have seen a few lunar eclipses, none recently, but just I have memories of being in the backyard and, seeing the moon turn this sort of dark, murky, reddish, grayish, brownish color, and then slowly, darken. And it's an amazing, to watch the whole thing, or even, the first half is an amazing thing. I seem to remember that I would watch the first half and then go, ooh, okay, it's all dark. And then as it slowly emerged, like, oh, okay, I'm done. But watching the whole thing, of course, would give you the ultimate experience. And it's an amazing thing to see.
And that ultimate experience of watching the entire thing can actually be a many hour event. The eclipse that's coming up, it's going to be a little over 5 hours for the entire thing to transpire. And my one experience of getting amazing skies to see an eclipse was also one of those so cold that you get stabby because you have to be outside and your eyeballs are freezing kind of New England nights. I remember being on the roof of the Harvard Science Center watching this beautiful eclipse over the Boston skyline and just thinking all I want to do is be inside blasting a heater. And now we were out on the roof doing public events the entire time. But like you said, it's really amazing to watch the color change. And this particular upcoming eclipse, we're really running the chance of having a blood red moon because there's been so many volcanic eruptions lately.
Yeah, and that would be amazing. They're all different. It seems like, the experience is different every time. But yeah, with the lunar eclipses, you've got some time to, if you want and you can kind of pop in and out, if you miss a little bit of it, you haven't missed the whole thing. So, unlike a solar eclipse where you really got to be at a certain place at a certain time and it doesn't last very long. So.
No, that's entirely true. Now, if you want to find out all about this particular eclipse, the NASA website, eclipse.gsfc for Goddard Space Flight Center, .nasa.gov has all of the maps you could possibly want. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you the map that I use. So this particular map shows you how the moon is going to move through eclipse. So what you'll notice if you're watching it is the moon will begin to be shadowed on, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it'll appear to be its left side. And as it passes in, it will get darker and darker from the left as it moves this direction. And then as it pops out on the eastern side of the shadow, you'll see that, brightness start to come back out. Now, when it comes to eclipses, they always list the times in these universal times, which are currently 1 hour off of Greenwich time, so 1 hour off of England time. We totally understand that's kind of a pain to deal with. So we are putting up on our blog all of those times converted for all the different time zones using time date. Now, if you want to figure out if it's visible to you, they have all of this on that same Eclipse website. Here you can see that basically South America really has the best view of this particular eclipse. Those of us who are in the eastern half of the United States will be able to see the entirety as well. Same with eastern Canada. So the Canadian Maritimes, you're in a great position. As you move west through America, you see less of it because it's basically an eclipse as the moon rises. And for those of you over in Europe, you're dealing with the moon setting during the eclipse. So here we're looking at, well, Western Africa. You're in a great position, as well as most of Western Europe and the British Isles. So we hope all of you can get out if you're in the right part of the world. We're sorry, Pacific Rim, or at least Eastern Pacific Rim, or I guess that's Western Pacific Rim, Eastern Asia. You're kind of out of luck this time, but you did have a great eclipse about this time last year. I was over in Australia, and we got to, it's me, we were clouded out. We got to attempt to watch a really great eclipse, although there were only breaks in the clouds where I was at a great little girls' school in Melbourne. But hey, some people bring all the clouds. I'm the one who brings the clouds.
You're the cloud bearer, huh?
I am. I go to Mauna Kea once in my life to see the observatories. It gets rainy. This is me. But hey, this is astronomy. It's the only science that requires. What was that?
There will be more eclipses.
There will. So we're going to be putting all of this up on our website. It'll go out on Patreon first. We are supported entirely through Patreon. So if you have a little extra to give and you want to see a little extra science education, patreon.com/learningspace.
We should say hi to, we've got a couple people watching, or at least they were watching a little bit ago. Paul Stewart. Hello. Do you know Paul?
I do. He's one of our regulars, and Guido Bibra's out there.
I know it's later, but nice to see you.
So he writes, I think the International Observe the Moon Night should be flexible in case of local bad weather. There's just no chance that the whole world has clear skies on this one date. So why not make it a pick the night with the best weather in a certain time span? So this is a great idea, and we call it Global Astronomy Month. So I'm going to screw this up. In April, I believe, it's Global Astronomy Month. And the Astronomers Without Borders works to orchestrate an entire month of possible events where there are lunar days, there are solar days, star parties scheduled around the world. With this particular celebration, we understand some people are going to get cloudy, and that's where CosmoQuest comes in. The project that we work with and that is behind organizing this particular hangout is here to help you do science. And one of our big programs is Moon Mappers. And if you can't see the moon outside, go online, help us map it out, and be part of mapping out our solar system. Mm-hmm. So have you looked at our weather yet, Georgia?
Last time I looked, it was going to be partly cloudy. So very vague and unhelpful. But yeah. But I think it sounded like most of these events, even if it's cloudy, there are other things going on. So unless you're completely rained out and storms are happening and it's just miserable, hopefully there will be things going on where you can still celebrate even if you can't see the moon.
And the great thing about the moon is if the skies are clear and the windows are nicely placed, you can sit inside, sip your cocoa if you have a cool night like we're going to have here, and watch it from inside. If you're in a bright city, light pollution doesn't touch the moon. So there's lots of options. And International Observe the Moon Night is always on a Saturday that has only a partial phase of the moon. And this was done because you can see the craters so much better. And this is really kind of my favorite time to see the moon. What about you, Georgia?
I do. I like the waning crescent, or actually the waxing, either crescent. The waxing crescent is what we've got now. But yes, crescent moon is so much nicer because you do get really interesting shadows, and craters seem to pop out. Sometimes you can see the little central peaks inside of some of the craters because the angle of the light's just hitting it just right. And plus, with a full moon, it's just too bright. I find that this is the perfect amount of the moon to kind of see, and it also, there's just sort of this romantic kind of, I don't know, feeling about the lovely crescent moon in the sky. It gives the sky its own beauty. So I really, the crescent is really the nicest. I've been to star parties where there's a full moon because it's an outreach event of some sort. I don't think there's an amateur astronomer anywhere that on purpose just goes out to observe during a full moon, unless there's, kids there that, are waiting to be, to learn about astronomy. So, the full moon is great because it's so easy to see. It's right there, but it really blinds you as you look through the telescope, and you do need some kind of filter or stop down your aperture or something. But then it also sort of is, blocks out all the stars in the sky except for the few bright ones.
Now you did just give away yourself as being a morning person by saying that you like the waning crescent, because the waning crescent is only visible in the early morning.
I know. Another reason why, right, most people maybe won't see that one too often. But yeah, if you do have to, it's kind of a nice bonus though, if you have to get up early, and the sun is just starting to rise, and you see it takes you by surprise sometimes, the little waning crescent moon, and it's kind of a nice reward for getting up early. So it adds to the beautiful morning sky.
And the reason that I can say that she gave away that she's a morning person is because the two of us probably have thought far too hard about phases of the moon at various points in our careers as we've tried to explain them to various students. And as we go from the crescent moon for International Observe the Moon Night to the full moon for the eclipse in a couple of weeks, this is a great opportunity to help get kids thinking about phases of the moon, the fact you can sometimes see the moon during the day, that it's not always up. It's really surprising how many people fall into all these different misconceptions, and you've actually done a lot of work on misconceptions.
It's probably, especially with the moon, for some reason, there's a lot of research out there on misconceptions there. And actually something Andy said just earlier made me think about, one reason why that is. He said, the moon is so familiar to us, right? It's something that's easy to see. We grow up, and there's some sort of romantic quality about it. You see it in cartoons, you see it in storybooks. The moon is cute. You say goodnight to the moon when you go to bed. Kids love it. So it's this friendly, familiar thing that follows us all through our childhood and as we're growing up. And so sometimes the more familiar you are with something, the stronger any misconceptions can be that you might have, because they just keep getting, reinforced. Every time you see the moon, whatever thoughts you have about it, reinforced. And so and that goes with all misconceptions. They're often things that are familiar to us, we encounter or think about in some aspect every day. And so when we run up against a different point of view, often in a class somewhere or in school, it's very hard to shift that point of view. Because the other thing the brain does is that when you learn something different, that's in opposition to what you think you already know, your brain works very hard to fit that new piece of information into your existing sort of pattern or framework of how you think things ought to be. So sometimes, we think, we've presented, this activity about the moon phases, and the kids seem to be getting it, and they did okay on this quiz, on the moon phases in school, but you know what, a week later, it's like it never happened, because the misconception is so strong, because our experience with that thing is so strong. So whether it's forces in physics or it's the moon, it's a familiar thing, and so it can breed a lot of misconceptions. And yeah, the moon is a good one for that.
And one of the things that research keeps showing over and over and over again is you can't change somebody's misconceptions just by telling them the facts. Telling someone that they're wrong doesn't work. Telling someone this is what the misconception is actually reinforces the misconception. It's just one of those things. And with phases of the moon, you really have to come at it from many different perspectives, from having people go outside and actually note, like for instance, every morning when your kid's going to school, every afternoon when they come home from school, note, is the moon in the sky? Where is the moon in the sky? And seeing that changing moon. And then sitting down with either really good diagrams or preferably really good simulators. And there's one really good simulator that both of us, I think, have used when we were teaching in the classroom, and that's the one that's put together by the Nebraska Applet Project. Did you use that one?
I think I've seen it before. I don't think I've actually used it in class.
Okay. So this is the simulator.
I've used one like it if it hasn't been that particular one. But yeah, something where you can get a different perspective, so you can be floating above the Earth and the sun and the moon and seeing it from this different angle, which will help you see what's going on. And then you can play with different things.
So what's cool with this one is you can move the moon around the Earth and see how the phase changes based on, oh, the moon's on the opposite side from the sun, therefore we see the lit side. The moon is down here. Moon doesn't actually move in that direction. Moon is down here. You can see that we see half the moon. You can also take our little human and move the human around. So I can see, oh, when I'm standing at that point between the sunlight and the night, when I'm on that terminator, is the fancy science word, well, it's about 6 p.m. And when I'm opposite from the sun, it's midnight, depending on how accurately I can move my little dude. So you can see all of these different things. And this actually has...
That shows, Pamela, is, something that people struggle with is, if I see a crescent moon here in the northern hemisphere, does somebody, in a different hemisphere, in a different part of the world, do they see the crescent moon also, or do they see a different phase? And just moving your little guy around like you're showing, can show that, it does not change the phase. They'll be seeing the same phase, no matter where you are on the Earth.
And one of my favorite things to do when I'm talking with people on other continents is when they make a comment about what's in their sky, say, thank you, I now know to look for that in a few hours when the world turns. It may be a bad or good, I have no idea, soap, but as the world turns is an even better description of astronomy. So this simulator, it's kind of mesmerizing. It actually has a Earth goes around the correct number of times simulation of what goes on during the month.
So here we go, right? A whole month.
It's completely addictive.
Views. So you get the view from the surface of the Earth, you get the view of the moon and its phases, you get the view floating above, somewhere in the floating above the solar system, looking down or looking up.
And you can see here, oh, the moon is rising after the sun. This is that waxing crescent that we're moving towards right now. And, oh, the sun's setting first, but we still have that crescent in the sky. And this is, a few days after where it is right now is what we're looking to have this Saturday. I think for International Observe the Moon Night, it's going to be something like that, depending on how late into the night your International Observe the Moon Night celebrations go. I suspect for most of us, we're not going to go that late. So let me see if I can rotate the Earth back around. Come here, little guy. So here we go. There's your International Observe the Moon Night for you.
There's how it will be.
Now, you had a great reference for misunderstandings and misconceptions.
I pulled this book. We have a whole series of these. Paige Keeley, and this one is also written by Carrie Snyder with her. She has a whole series of these books called Uncovering Student Ideas, and they're called assessment probes. And they're great. They're designed for teachers, but you could really use these because they're so quick and easy. These are things you can do with kids in any kind of outreach situation, because what she has done is she's looked up and researched a lot of these misconceptions and then created just like little one-page, like this one's called Sizing Up the Moon. They take a misconception, like how big is the moon? People may not really know, the students may not really know, and it's a probing of ideas. So it asks a question, and the student or whatever kid you're working with has got to put their ideas down, sort of make a choice, answer a question, but also importantly explain why they think their answer is the right one. So this one is Sizing Up the Moon, and it's very simple. Have you ever looked up at the moon and wondered how big it is? And you put an X next to whatever you think is the closest. So is it the size of a penny? Is it a baseball? Is it the size of the sun, the earth? And so then you can talk about, what the answer is, but also why they chose the answer that they did. So it's in making people's thinking come out in the open like this that you can really start to get at some of the misconceptions and talk about why they think the way they do, and maybe give some counter examples. And again, even this is not, it's not going to be a magic thing that's going to change their misconceptions right off the bat, but they will start to think about things. And if it's a classroom situation, of course, then you can design instruction and activities, and it's something you can work at with students over the course of, a semester or a year. But even for an outreach situation where you just have a kid come by, you don't even need the paper. You can just think of questions to ask, what do they think? How big do you think the moon is? We see a crescent. Is somebody in China seeing a crescent right now? Why or why not? Why do you think that? So getting people to talk about their ideas, making their thinking explicit is a really key way that you can get at misconceptions. And there's a whole series of these books by Paige Keeley that you can order through NSTA, actually, and it's the National Science Teachers Association. Their website has all of these books. If you're near us at the SIUE STEM Center in Edwardsville, you can come by and you can just check one out of our library. We have most of them, I think. So, but the idea is just to ask people questions about what they think.
And when she says library, Georgia is talking about the STEM Center repository of learning materials that we have for educators and the parents who homeschool, not the university library. We actually have an amazing resource center that loans out equipment, allows you to purchase at cost the different chemicals you might need for a lot of different experiments. And we're here to help educators, whether they be formal, informal, or parental, get a better handle on how to get science into the minds of their children.
Yeah. So these books are a great place to start, but the idea of just asking questions, asking what the kids think, asking what the adults think. Sometimes at outreach we get into the mode of we're going to tell everybody everything, and that's great, but a more effective way would be to start by asking your people, the visitors, what they think. And then you can have a discussion and start to tell a few things.
And it's kind of amazing how often people just don't think. I remember I encountered someone when I was in grad school who had just never thought about the relationship between the Earth and Sun, and actually didn't know that the Earth went around the Sun because they'd never really thought about it. Mm-hmm. And just getting them to think that through changed their perspective on where we are in space. And so it's really powerful just to ask, well, what do you think and why? It's that why that's usually the kicker.
Yeah, that how do you know? And then maybe provide a counter example and see, what do you think about this? And you can get into a whole long conversation, which is interesting and helpful.
And hopefully we can all find time to have those conversations. And it's often hard to have these conversations in school because there's just not enough time. So this might be also the type of thing where you encourage your kids, if you're a teacher, to go home and talk with their parents and write about what they're thinking and what their parents are thinking, and make this a family science experience, especially since the moon is one of those things that you can see from home just as well as you can see from the schoolyard.
Sure. And I think in a couple episodes ago, Pamela, you were talking about an activity to go out and draw the moon, and you can go, was that our 100th? I don't know. It was a few episodes ago. But Summer of Science, that's something you can always do, and it's amazing, the systematic observing of something reveals so much that you never knew before, never thought about before. So again, these moon activities can be done anytime. So
now that I think was the big set of things that we wanted to talk about. International Observe the Moon Night this coming Saturday, Lunar Eclipse on September 27, 28, and just pay attention to the phases in between and watch how our sky is changing. I think those are the biggies. Am I missing anything, Georgia?
I don't think so. Speaking of eclipses, we've got a big one coming up in a couple years, right?
Yeah, in
just keep
August of 2017.
Yeah, I keep thinking, it's 2 years, but it's never too early to start thinking about and planning for that, because
that's the great North American.
You do need to be in a certain place.
This is going to be a solar eclipse that starts in Oregon, ends in the Carolinas, and sweeps through the middle of the country. The way I like to think about it is pick the type of music you like, whether it be St. Louis blues, Nashville country, and head out to the center line. And no matter where you are in the continental United States or southern Canada, you'll actually be able to see at least a partial phase of this particular solar eclipse.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've seen one, so I'm really excited about it. Even though it's 2 years away, but I'm still thinking about it now. But yeah.
Our next learning space is going to be on Wednesday, September 30th. We are going to be sticking with this new time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who are able to watch this live, we're hoping that this will allow more teachers here in the continental United States and out in the Pacific Rim, Hawaii, Australia, and other nations, much to the west of us, to be able to more easily tune in. And we're going to be working to bring you highlights of International Observe the Moon Night. If you get any great photos of either that or of the lunar eclipse, please send them in. Let us share them out. And we're going to be working there to help you learn how to prepare your kids to think about the coming equinox at the end of October. This is one of those things where we're hoping to get schools all over the United States and all over the world all going out, looking up, and measuring shadows as they also look down at a stick stabbed into the ground. So we're going to give you plenty of lead time to get ready for that one. So please join us on September 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And, well, you know how to calculate for hopefully whatever time zone you're in anywhere in the world.
Speaking of times, could you give our website out again? You said you had put up all of the lunar eclipse times, so you don't have to figure out the calculation between universal and all that. So give that out one more time.
So going live tomorrow on our website, going live tonight on Patreon. That would be September 17th for those of you watching us on the archive. All of this information is going to go up on our website, which is cosmoquest.org/x/educatorszone. Follow it on Twitter, CosmoQuestX, and we tweet out links to everything as it goes live. So thank you for taking time out tonight, Georgia. I know it's a glorious evening and it's sad to be inside.
That's okay. This is always good, and thinking ahead to being outside on the weekend, so we have to get ready for that.
Exactly.
Get your moon observing gear ready to go and have a good time observing. And hopefully the weather is good wherever you are. So, and yeah, share your experiences with us.
So thank you so much for joining us this morning, this evening, this afternoon. And I look forward to seeing you again at our next show. And Georgia, I'll see you at work tomorrow.
That's right. I'll be there.
Okay. I'll see you all later. Okay. Good night.
Good night.